Hi guys, how are you today? After a hard working day, let's relax with this journey through history. We will travel back to the Middle Ages, a time filled with knighthood, chivalry, and struggles, both noble and grim. As we settle into the past, take a deep breath and allow the rhythms of history to guide you into a gentle exploration of what life was really like for a knight. If you're as excited as we are to dive into this captivating journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more adventures into the past. Let's uncover the mysteries of the Middle Ages together. Hit that bell icon too, so you're always first in line for the next historical adventure. So, settle in, fluff your pillow, maybe light a candle. Let's dim the lights and take a deep, relaxing breath. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine with me a world far removed from our own. A world where the luxury of soap, clean water, and the simple comfort of fresh linens are nothing but dreams. A world where hygiene, well, let's just say it wasn't quite as refined as it is today. Picture the flicker of a fire casting shadows on your room, the soft crackle and pop filling the quiet, creating a warm, intimate space. But beyond this comforting scene, in the distant past, a very different reality unfolds. Imagine, if you will, a time long ago, a time when the world moved at a slower pace. There was no rushing, no hurry. The days were marked by the rhythm of nature, by the slow, steady turning of the seasons. And yet, amid the simplicity of life, there existed an absence of the luxuries we take for granted today. For you see, there was no running water, no soap to cleanse, and no antiseptic wipes to keep the world clean. In this world, hygiene was not the priority it is for us now. The idea of cleanliness, as we know it, was still a foreign concept. Instead, people navigated the days with what they had, making do in a way that may seem unfamiliar to us, yet was entirely natural to them. Can you hear the soft crackling of the fire? It flickers gently, casting its warm glow across the room. The fire's warmth is comforting, but it is not the only thing that stands as a reminder of a different time. The air, thick with the scents of earth, wood, and perhaps a faint trace of something more primitive, whispers of a simpler, more raw existence. As you sit here, before the fire, let us begin our journey. A journey back in time, to a world where the everyday routines we know, like washing or the luxury of a clean towel, did not exist. Where bathing was a rare occasion, and hygiene was not as we understand it today. Let us drift together into this forgotten era, where cleanliness was not a priority, but rather a distant thought. Imagine, in your dream, waking up in the early hours of a medieval morning. The dim light from the small window reflects off the rough-hewn beams of your humble room. The air, thick with the scent of earth, wood, and a slight chill, tells you it's still early. You feel the warmth of the woolen blanket around you, but something else stirs in the room as well, something that feels heavier. It is the scent of the world, of a time before cleanliness could be taken for granted. Now, let's consider a simple thing: soap. Today, we might take for granted the easy availability of soap in our daily lives. We see it in bars or liquid form, easily accessible, a constant presence in our kitchens and bathrooms. We can't go a day without using it to wash our hands, our faces, and sometimes even our phones. But in medieval times, soap was not a luxury item, nor was it something you could find easily on a shelf in every home. To truly understand how people lived without soap, we must go back to its origins. Soap, in the form we know it today, wasn't a product that had been perfected, nor was it widely used in the way we might expect. The first true soaps were likely discovered by accident, through the process of combining fat and ashes, a mixture that occurred when animal fat was burned, releasing lye, which could be mixed with oils to form a rudimentary cleaning agent. The creation of soap was not a conscious act of hygiene, as it would be for us now. It was born out of practicality. People discovered that this mixture of animal fat, ash, and water could clean certain things: clothes, dishes, even their skin. But it was not something everyone had access to. Soap was a laborious product, often homemade in small quantities, created in kitchens, or by local soap makers who understood the balance of fat and lye to create a cleaning agent. However, this soap, born from a mixture of ashes and fat, was not the soft, fragrant bar of soap we are familiar with today. It was harsh and lacked the delicate textures or scents we now associate with cleanliness. It wasn't something that could be used frequently. Instead, it was reserved for cleaning clothes, tending to household chores, or occasionally washing the face. In medieval times, washing your face with soap was a strange, almost dangerous practice. Now, we panic if we don't wash our faces at least twice a day with 3 different cleansers. Yet, there was no regular habit of using soap to cleanse the body. In fact, most medieval people did not use soap for their skin at all. In the absence of modern understanding of germs or bacteria, cleanliness was not seen in the same way as it is today. It was not that people didn't care about cleanliness. They did, but their understanding of cleanliness was deeply different from ours. The medieval world, with all its grime and struggle, held a belief that cleaning the body too often could bring harm rather than health. There was a belief in the concept of miasma, or bad air, which was thought to be responsible for disease and illness. To wash too much, to open the pores and expose the body to the air, was considered dangerous. The act of cleaning yourself, of washing away dirt and sweat, was believed to invite the miasma, this invisible cloud of sickness, into the body, making you vulnerable to disease. This belief shaped how people viewed their own cleanliness. Bathing was seen as a potential cause of illness, and as such, it was not something that was done regularly. In fact, some people only bathed once a year, often in large communal tubs where many would wash at the same time. These infrequent baths were seen more as a social gathering than a ritual of personal hygiene. So, why didn't medieval people use soap to clean their bodies? It wasn't a matter of luxury, it was simply a reflection of how they understood the world around them. The knowledge of hygiene and cleanliness as we know it today had not yet been developed. The scientific understanding of bacteria, germs, and the benefits of washing were not available to them. Instead, their concept of cleanliness was rooted in a belief system that viewed dirt and grime not as harmful, but as protective. For many, a layer of dirt was thought to shield them from the cold, from disease, and from the harshness of the outside world. It wasn't unusual to hear that some people believed that their bodies, covered in layers of dirt, were safer from illness than those who bathed regularly. In this sense, the absence of soap was not a matter of wealth or status. It was simply a result of what they believed to be safe and right. And so, the idea of using soap for personal hygiene was foreign. People didn't wash their bodies with soap regularly, if at all. Their focus was on survival, on weathering the challenges of their time, and on understanding the world through the lens of their beliefs about the air and disease. And yet, soap, in its more rudimentary form, played a role. It was used, not for the body, but for the cleaning of items, clothing, tools, and occasionally, their faces. But the act of cleaning the body itself remained a rarity, a practice clouded by fear and the belief that cleanliness might invite harm. In this chapter, we have begun to understand a world where soap was not the luxury we consider it today, nor the staple of cleanliness that we take for granted. In the medieval world, it was a simple tool, one used only when necessary, often for things other than the body. And in the absence of soap, the people of the time lived by their own methods of survival and understanding, guided by beliefs that shaped their relationship with cleanliness and hygiene. As we continue this journey, we will explore how life in medieval times evolved and how these beliefs about hygiene influenced not only how people lived, but how they died. For now, let us rest in the comfort of our own modern understanding of cleanliness and remember the world of the past as we drift further into this story. As we step away from the quiet of the home, let us now move to a place that, though far from serene, was an essential part of daily life for many in the Middle Ages: the public bathhouse. These bathhouses were not simply places to cleanse the body, but were in many ways the social hubs of the time. Imagine a large, bustling room filled with steam, the sound of voices blending with the soft splash of water as people gather not only to bathe, but to live their lives in the most communal of ways. The public bathhouses of the Middle Ages were far more than simple places to wash away the dust of the day. These bathhouses, often large and open to the public, served as vital social centers where the boundaries between hygiene and social life blurred. In a world where personal space was not as defined as it is today, these bathhouses were both places of cleansing and lively communal gathering. Imagine stepping into the dimly lit room of a medieval bathhouse. The air is thick with steam, curling around the heavy stone walls as the sound of water splashes softly in the background. The clattering of wooden buckets and the gentle murmur of voices fill the space. People are gathered in groups, chatting not just about their day, but about their lives. Current events, political matters, or the latest gossip. The bathhouse was a place where the affairs of daily life were discussed freely, where opinions were exchanged without the confines of formality. Within these spaces, you might find artisans and merchants discussing business, sealing deals between baths and hearty laughter. The bathhouse was a place for negotiations, where merchants could strike a bargain for goods or services, where contracts could be whispered over the soothing noise of water. Even the very business of life, trade, barter, and contracts, often took place while people submerged in water, the gentle rhythms of bathing blending with the rhythms of commerce. But the bathhouse was not just a place for work. It was also a site of entertainment. Imagine yourself resting on the cool stone benches, steam rising from the large wooden tubs around you. Perhaps, at the far corner, a minstrel strums a soft tune on his lute, the music mingling with the sound of murmurs and splashes. There may be a storyteller, weaving a tale of distant lands, or a juggler performing tricks to amuse the crowd. These moments of leisure and entertainment brought a sense of joy to the bathhouse, making it not just a place to bathe, but a place to relax, unwind, and escape the pressures of daily life. Sometimes the entertainment took a more playful turn. Games, friendly competitions, or even mock duels might unfold in the water, adding an element of fun to the space. These moments of merriment allowed people to let down their guard, to share in light-hearted moments amidst the steam and warmth of the bath. It was a chance to unwind, laugh, and experience a rare sense of community, in a time when much of life was governed by hard work and strict societal roles. And beyond mere relaxation or entertainment, the bathhouse also played a central role in maintaining relationships. It was a gathering place for families and friends, where social bonds were strengthened and new acquaintances could be made. This communal setting allowed for the fostering of relationships, whether through quiet conversations in the corner or through louder exchanges as people moved from bath to bath. Here, friendships could be formed, alliances could be solidified, and networks could be expanded. The bathhouse was often a place for families to gather together, each member slipping into their respective pools and sharing moments of warmth and connection. Parents might discuss the day's events, while children splashed around in the shallows. Elderly members of the community might sit on the stone benches, chatting with neighbours and telling stories of times gone by. In this sense, the bathhouse acted not just as a place for cleaning, but as a central thread in the fabric of social life, connecting individuals from all walks of life. Even the very act of bathing was intertwined with social rituals. In some bathhouses, attendants would be present to help wash and massage the visitors, offering services beyond simply scrubbing away dirt. This act of care and attention was not just practical, but also deeply social. The act of being bathed by another person in a shared space was a form of trust and intimacy that transcended the physical act itself. It was a moment of connection, where the boundaries of social class and personal distance were momentarily softened. Women and men often bathed separately, but the sense of community remained. For women especially, the bathhouse was sometimes one of the few places where they could socialize freely, as many aspects of life outside the home were more restrictive. Here, they could talk freely, laugh, and share experiences with others who were also part of their community. The bathhouse, then, was more than just a physical space of water and steam. It was a reflection of medieval life itself, a complex space where social interaction, business, entertainment, and relaxation intersected. It was a space that, despite its raw simplicity, offered moments of joy, relaxation, and connection. The act of bathing itself, far from being a solitary or mundane task, became an opportunity for communal experience and interaction. In a world where physical and social boundaries were often blurred, the public bathhouse was a rare place where all these threads could intertwine, creating a place of significance far beyond its primary purpose. But of course, not everyone had equal access to these communal spaces. Hygiene in the medieval world was not a universal privilege, but rather something deeply connected to one's social class. For the common folk, public bathhouses were often the only option for a bath, and they would visit infrequently, perhaps once a year or even less. Their bathing rituals were brief and utilitarian, designed to cleanse the body, but the time spent in these spaces was also a time for social interaction and community bonding. On the other hand, the nobility had access to much more private and luxurious bathing arrangements. Wealthy individuals had bathing rooms in their homes, with servants to prepare the water and assist with the process. For them, bathing could be a more leisurely affair, more focused on relaxation than mere cleanliness. Yet, even the nobility did not escape the cultural perceptions of cleanliness. Bathing, though more accessible to them, was still a practice fraught with uncertainty and fear. This fear, this ambiguity about hygiene, grew stronger with the onset of the Black Death, a disease that swept through Europe with devastating speed. In its wake, perceptions about personal cleanliness changed dramatically. Initially, bathing had been more common, even for the wealthy, who might have enjoyed their private bathhouses in peace. But as the plague spread, so too did the belief that water could bring harm rather than health. People began to associate bathing with the spread of disease, believing that the act of washing would open the pores and allow bad air, the miasma of sickness, to enter the body. The very concept of cleansing oneself, of washing away the dirt and sweat of the day, became entwined with fear of contamination. The rise of the Black Death led many to abandon public bathhouses, as people feared that the communal nature of bathing could invite the invisible threat of disease into their lives. The fear of contagion was a powerful force, one that led to the decline of the once popular bathhouse culture. As a result, many people avoided baths altogether and instead relied on simple methods of cleanliness that didn't involve the potential risks of opening the skin to harmful air. The idea that cleanliness could lead to illness became a widely accepted belief, and in many ways the ritual of bathing became something of the past for large portions of the population. But it wasn't just disease that influenced the changing practices of hygiene. The overlap between religious practices and medical theories also played a significant role in how people viewed bathing. For centuries, the act of bathing was intertwined with religious purification rituals. To cleanse the body was to cleanse the soul, and many saw water as a means of spiritual renewal. Priests might bless the water before a bath, and it was common for people to see bathing as part of their religious duties, a way to purify themselves before entering sacred spaces or to prepare for holy observances. At the same time, medical beliefs also shaped the way people approached bathing. Physicians of the time, though often blending medical and spiritual views, were concerned with the balance of humours in the body, blood, bile and phlegm. They prescribed baths for therapeutic purposes, but also cautioned against certain practices, especially when it came to bathing too frequently or in water that might be considered unclean. There was a careful dance between health and holiness, between the body's need for cleanliness and the fear that cleanliness might actually do harm. So you see, the practice of bathing in the Middle Ages was not simply a matter of personal hygiene. It was a complex blend of social, medical and religious beliefs that shaped how people interacted with water and cleanliness. It was a practice often influenced by fear, by disease, and by the delicate balance between body and soul. Bathing was not something simple, nor was it always something universally accessible. It was a practice fraught with contradiction, wrapped in a history of belief and tradition, as people struggled to make sense of a world they didn't fully understand. As we move forward, we will see how these beliefs evolved over time, how they shaped not only how people lived, but how they viewed their very existence. But for now, let us pause and reflect on the role that water once played, both as a source of life and a symbol of death, of purity and of fear. Now, as we step away from the warmth of the bathhouse and the gentle glow of the firelight, let us walk the narrow, often muddy streets of a medieval city. Picture yourself stepping onto the cobblestones, your shoes sinking slightly into the soft, wet earth, as the city stirs with the sounds of daily life. Paris, London, or any bustling medieval city, though names differ, their streets shared certain characteristics that mark them as places of both life and decay. The air, thick with the dampness of recent rain, carries with it a heavy scent. It is not the fresh, clean smell of nature, or the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers, but something far less pleasant. It is the smell of everything else, of waste, of the unwashed bodies of those who've walked these same paths, of animals and refuse that litter the ground. This is the scent of a medieval city, where the lines between the sacred and the profane, the clean and the dirty, are drawn in the muck beneath your feet. The streets, often poorly paved and uneven, were a challenge to navigate. When it rained, the mud would mix with human and animal waste, creating a foul-smelling slush that stuck to your shoes and clung to the hem of your clothes. You might find yourself stepping around piles of discarded waste, or even dodging the contents of chamber pots tossed from windows above, as the cries of "Gardez l'eau," watch out for the water, echo through the streets. But of course it is not water at all that falls, but something far more unpleasant. This was a common practice, a necessary evil of life in the city. People disposed of their waste in the street, the refuse of daily life spilling out from windows to be swept away by the next rainfall. In some places, the streets would be so thick with mud and waste that you could scarcely distinguish between the dirt and the refuse of the city. Rats, flies, and other pests made their homes here, thriving in the garbage and waste, while the people of the city moved about, accustomed to the squalor as part of the rhythm of their lives. But the streets were not just places of filth. They were also places of life, of commerce, and of movement. As you walk, you might hear the cries of market vendors hawking their wares: bread, vegetables, meat, and even small goods for the home. People bustle about, making their way through the city, stopping to barter, to haggle, to exchange stories. Even in the filth there is life, a testament to the resilience of the people who lived here. Despite the stench, the streets were the lifeblood of the city. Here, relationships were forged and broken, deals were made, and the pulse of the medieval world could be felt in the footsteps of every passerby. The markets were lively places, filled with the scents of food, the sound of bargaining, and the occasional laughter of children playing in the street. And yet, all of this activity took place in a city where cleanliness was, at best, an afterthought. As we move away from the bustling streets and the communal warmth of the bathhouse, let us turn our attention to another aspect of medieval life, one that, while perhaps less visible, was no less important. I speak of hair, that constant companion to every person's appearance, and yet, in the Middle Ages, it was a subject treated with both practicality and perhaps a touch of indifference. Imagine, if you will, standing before a small mirror, perhaps one made of polished metal or glass, in a dimly lit room. You take a moment to look at your reflection. Your hair is unkempt, tangled from the day's activities, the wind perhaps adding a few extra knots. But there is no panic, no immediate desire to make it neat. In fact, this is likely the way your hair has been for some time. In the medieval world, hair was not treated with the same level of attention we give it today. While we may think of regular haircuts, shampoos, and styling routines as essentials of daily life, the people of the Middle Ages did not have the same understanding of hair care. Instead, it was largely about function, about making do with what was necessary and practical. Combs were made of wood, bone, or sometimes metal, and these simple tools were used to untangle knots or smooth the hair. They weren't designed for luxurious grooming, nor were they expected to create any particular style. People combed their hair as needed, but there was no ritualistic focus on perfecting one's appearance. Hair care, in this time, was more about the removal of tangles and the occasional sweep to ensure that it wasn't obstructing your vision or getting in your way. Instead of shampoos and conditioners, people would rely on simple powders or oils to care for their hair. These, too, were far from the delicate, fragrant concoctions we use today. Rather, they were often made from animal fats or herbs, mixed together to coat the hair and perhaps keep it in place for a time. The oils might leave a faint scent of earth or animal, a sharp contrast to the modern floral or fruity perfumes we associate with cleanliness and beauty. The concept of washing the hair as we know it now was not as ingrained in medieval society. In fact, hair was seldom washed at all. It wasn't that people didn't care about cleanliness, but their understanding of it was shaped by different priorities. For many, it was enough to brush or comb the hair, but the regular cleansing we now associate with hair care simply wasn't a common practice. Instead, the focus was often on other parts of the body, like the face or hands, while the hair might go weeks or even months without being washed. For many, hair was simply a part of their identity, but not one that required constant maintenance. In fact, the idea of perfectly clean or perfectly styled hair might have seemed foreign to most. Long, flowing locks might be admired, but they were not a mark of status or vanity as they often are today. Hair was just another part of the body, left to its natural state, with only the occasional comb or brush to keep it from becoming too unruly. And yet, even in this time of relative indifference, there were moments when the hair could be a symbol of something deeper. For example, during religious ceremonies or rites of passage, the hair might be treated differently. A shaved head could be a sign of humility, penance, or devotion, while long, untamed hair might symbolize freedom or strength. Even in a society that did not focus on hair care as we do now, hair still had its place in the cultural and social rituals of the time. Perhaps, then, it is in this simplicity that we see the true difference between the medieval and modern world. Today, our understanding of hair care is tied up with aesthetics, cleanliness, and the pursuit of perfection. We go to great lengths to make our hair smooth, shiny, and manageable, investing in products designed to control every strand. In the Middle Ages, however, hair was treated as a natural part of the body, something that needed only minimal attention and care. In this way, the care of hair in the medieval world was a reflection of the broader cultural norms, a focus on simplicity, utility, and survival. People lived in a world where the act of grooming oneself was secondary to the practicalities of life, where the demands of daily existence left little room for the luxury of personal appearance. Hair, like many other aspects of the medieval body, was left to exist as it was, without the concern for perfection that dominates our modern lives. So, as we pause here and reflect on the care of hair in the medieval world, we may find ourselves thinking of how different it is from our own lives today. We live in a time when appearance is often of great importance, when every strand of hair is carefully tended to with the latest products and styles. But in the Middle Ages, hair was a part of the body to be managed, not perfected. And in that simplicity, there is perhaps a kind of beauty, one that doesn't rely on external standards, but instead exists as it is, untouched and unpolished, like the world in which it grew. As the sun sets, your day in the medieval world draws to a close. The bustling streets quiet, and the sounds of the market fade into a hushed stillness. The weight of the day lingers in your body, the weariness of survival. As night falls, you return to your modest dwelling, a small room with simple furnishings. Your bed, filled with straw, offers little comfort, but it is enough for rest. A thin woolen blanket keeps the chill at bay as you settle in for the night. The only light comes from a flickering candle, casting soft shadows on the stone walls. The stillness invites reflection. The sounds of the night, the gentle rustling of straw, the creak of wooden beams, are calming. In this quiet, you find solace, though the world outside holds the threat of disease and uncertainty. Sleep, though necessary, feels precarious. People lived with the knowledge that illness could strike at any moment, a reminder that rest was not always a guarantee of safety. And yet, there is comfort in this simplicity. The quiet of the night, the warmth of the blanket, offer a moment of peace. There are no luxuries here, just the quiet dignity of sleep. For tomorrow, another day of work, survival, and perhaps moments of joy await. But for now, you rest, knowing that the world will carry on while you sleep. As you drift deeper into sleep, let us reflect on what we have just experienced. Imagine, if you will, waking up tomorrow in this world we have explored, a world without the comforts and conveniences we know today. The medieval world, with its rough realities and stark survival, was a place of struggle. And though you might try, it would be difficult to last a day here, as time moves at a different rhythm, one shaped by uncertainty and hardship. In the medieval world, there were no soft beds, no hot showers, no guarantees of safety or health. You would wake to a cold, unheated room, the sound of distant voices or animals outside, a reminder that the comforts of today were beyond reach. Your body, unprotected by modern medicine, would be vulnerable to the illnesses and diseases that silently spread, and you would find yourself facing a daily struggle to survive, often without knowledge of how to protect yourself. You would face the harshness of the streets, the filth, the waste, and the constant threat of disease. The simple act of breathing could invite sickness, and the absence of sanitation would only heighten the risk. Bathing, though necessary, would be an infrequent luxury, and your hair, your clothes, and your body would carry the marks of a time when hygiene was not a given. Yet, there is something deeply human in this struggle. In a world where survival was never guaranteed, people found ways to endure. They forged relationships in communal bathhouses, they survived the squalor of the streets, and they found moments of connection and joy amidst the hardships. While you might not last a day in their shoes, you would also witness their resilience, their quiet dignity in the face of adversity. So, as you sleep, take a moment to feel gratitude for the world you live in now, a world where comfort, cleanliness, and safety are more accessible. And as you drift further into rest, know that you are connected to those who lived before us, whose lives were shaped by challenges far greater than our own. Thank you for joining us. Rest well, take care of your beautiful self, whatever that means to you, and until next time, good night.